Welcome to Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, your day weather podcast, brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. As we take a look at what is ahead, well, get used to what we have now because we really don't expect a whole lot of major changes, at least for the next several days. Subtle but important changes will happen right around the end of this month and right around the 1st and 2nd of August, and we'll show you that. But we're basically in the summer doldrums, where doldrums meaning we're not going to see anything shift very much, which is typical. Usually the last half of July through the first 3 weeks of August, we tend to be in a pattern like this, and it's because we're mature into summer. The main jet stream is more well up to our north now, and we're just into a summer pattern across North America. And the weather and the weather forecast will respond in kind, which means that the overall steady state nature of our temperatures will continue. Any fluctuations in temperatures won't be dramatic. We'll have some days that'll be a little cooler, some days that are going to be a little bit hotter, and what regulates basically our temperatures will be these surges of monsoonal moisture. Some days will be deeper than others, and the deeper monsoonal days will mean more clouds, more thunderstorms, and a little bit of a cool down. The little pockets of drier air that come in will mean less thunderstorms, less clouds, and warmer temperatures. So kind of a back and forth. The monsoon moisture does get a little deeper at the end of this week and into the weekend, increasing the thunderstorm threat a little bit. And then we see a important shift in the high pressure ridge that's going to be taking place right at the end of this month. And this shift in the high pressure ridge more to the east is really going to open up the monsoonal moisture flow, the door. The door, so to speak, is not just a little crack allowing moisture in, but it opens wide if this high pressure ridge shifts east. And we'll show you that. And then that means right at the end of this month into early August could see a heavier period of shower and thunderstorm activity for a few days, and we'll take a look at that. The satellite image this morning, the water vapor loop, showing very, very nicely as we animate it here what's going on with the pattern. The orange here showing the drier air underneath the high pressure ridge that's still right here over western New Mexico and eastern Arizona. And then you can just see the moisture arching around here. And this is going to be steady state here for the next several days. Really, this is just not going to be changing very much. This drier air here will stay in those areas. Our moisture flow is coming all the way up out of Mexico and really Central America as well. And then wrapping around the high into the Rockies, then into the Plain States. And you can see another nocturnal thunderstorm pattern going across South Dakota and Nebraska here early this morning. And we'll see this pattern rinse and repeat. Same thing. There's the high, very strong high pressure ridge over northwest New Mexico near the Gallup area, Albuquerque area here this morning. And I mentioned the jet stream is riding along where it should be usually in mid to late summer, more up into those northern areas. Now, by Monday, so here we are today, by Monday there's a bit of an eastward shift. And this is where this eastward shift in the high is going to open things up right here, allowing a more direct flow into the Rockies with the monsoonal moisture flow. And I'll show you this here in a minute when we take a look at the precipitable water forecast. I'm going to be placing this H to show you where the upper level ridge, meaning the high pressure center at 18,000 feet or 500 millibars. This is where we are today. So this matches up very well with the satellite imagery of where the deeper moisture is and then arching into the Corn Belt. And this is where the more active thunderstorm coverage will be today with the drier air right underneath the high pressure. And this is where we're going to go here through the next 3 days in terms of where the thunderstorm coverage will be. The darker shade of green, the thunderstorms a little bit heavier. So for western and southwestern Wyoming, the Wasatch Front, up into Montana, we'll see some thunderstorms here. We had a few strong thunderstorms in this area here, especially with strong wind gusts, but brief periods of heavy rain and small hail. As we showed you here, some deeper moisture resides over the Dakotas. So we've got an area here of a higher risk of severe weather today. Tomorrow, we've got a real high risk into the Great Lakes and parts of the Midwest and parts of the Corn Belt. And then an axis here of heavier thunderstorm activity with general thunderstorm activity elsewhere around this circulating area of monsoonal moisture. And this is 3 days out as we get into the day on Friday. So today, Wednesday, and then Thursday into Friday, we're going to see this general pattern of thunderstorms continuing. And if we look at the precipitable water, this is for tomorrow. It's still there along the I-80 corridor. There's patches of dryness, but there's a lot of white and a lot of green. The white and the green is where you're going to see those afternoon and evening thunderstorms pop up. And you can see we've got it west of the divide and over the higher terrain as well. Notice the placement of the H and the high tomorrow. It's basically in the same area. Then it drifts a little bit more northward Saturday. And Saturday, there's also going to be a slight push of air coming in from the northeast. And this is a pattern that we had, if you remember last Thursday. If you remember last Thursday, we had a lot of very active thunderstorm activity along and east of the divide, the Front Range areas. It's not exactly the same pattern, but it's somewhat similar. So this is the uptick in thunderstorm coverage that will be developing this weekend, especially Front Range areas, as the high begins to shift and concentrate the moisture around a little bit. Then look what happens by Monday. Saturday, Monday. See how the high shifts to the southeast? And look at this axis of deeper moisture right here. Then as we get into next Tuesday, the high is all the way now into Oklahoma and Kansas. There you can see as it gets shifted. So imagine the clockwise air circulation around the high is now directing the moisture a little bit more east, getting a little bit more east out into the plains as the high pressure ridge shifts. Notice how dark green and the blue here beginning to show up. Now I can tell you that historically, and we'll talk about this later this week, right around the last days of July and into the first week of August, you can find in the climate record a lot of very heavy rainfall with thunderstorm activity where you get some very intense rains as the deeper monsoonal moisture gets a little bit further out to the east as this high pressure ridge shifts. This is where we are by next Wednesday. So you can see all the blue across the Great Basin and the Central Rockies here because the high pressure ridge wants to be centered a lot further east, and the clockwise flow has easier access to the deeper moisture to push it a little bit more to the east and also push it up to the Front Range areas. And then that's by next Thursday. So this eastward shift going to be very interesting to watch in terms of really opening up the door to the monsoonal moisture flow coming up out of the south. If you look at the 10-day precipitation forecast, boy, this really shows it well. And remember, when you look at maps here like this, you want to look for patterns. So this is the 10-day cumulative forecast from the European model, basically through next Friday. The H is showing where the average placement of the upper ridge is going to be over the next 10 days, which is a little bit of where we are now and where we're going to be next week as it makes its eastward shift. Notice there's almost no rain of any consequence forecasted underneath the mean area of the high pressure ridge because the air is sinking there, the air is drier, it's a lot more stable. But talk about the ring of fire, here it is, going right around that high pressure ridge, and that's where the deeper moisture comes on out. And you can see some significant rain will be possible with any thunderstorms as that door goes wide open. And you can really see Colorado, Wyoming, into Nebraska, but also New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah, getting into the act, then into the upper plain states, then eventually into the northern and northwest areas of the Corn Belt as it moves on through. We've seen this many, many times in late July and early August historically. So this is about what you would expect, but some years it's a weaker pattern, some years it's a stronger pattern. We'll see if the European model catches this correctly with this high shifting east beginning this weekend and into next week. Have yourself a good Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.